Such a pleasure to be here with you all. I'm really excited about this event. I've been in the Middle East for 31 years. I've been writing about meetings and events for the last 17 years, and I have to say, I've never seen a setup like this. I'm already a motor racing aficionado, so I love it, being associated with this venue, and I've been here on the track and had the opportunity yesterday to ride around the circuit as well in the F-Type. It is incredible. Just in terms of this room that we're in right now, if you imagine during F1 we have 400 media in here, and the screens here are custom built for F1, split screens with different feeds coming from around the circuit. Everything moves quickly here, and when I was first approached 4 or 5 weeks ago and said, look, do you guys want to be involved in this? I thought, are we actually going to manage that in such a short time? But with the team here, they've really made it happen, and it really is incredible. So thank you very much for inviting us to be part of this session. We are very excited. I'm going to get on with things quite quickly because unfortunately we're running a little bit behind today. But before I do, I'd like to know a little bit about who we've got attending today. And we're going to try out Slido. So let's see how that works. So if you've all logged in, hands up if you actually have logged into Slido yet. We'll see if this is going to work, first of all, if you're participating. Okay, it might not then. We'll try the old-fashioned route as well as Slido. So if you could just go into that and do a poll, who here is basically an event planner on the agency side, who's an event planner from the client side, who's a DMC, and who's a venue or hotel. So you'll see that question hopefully come up. If it works, we should see it on the screen. Okay, the old-fashioned way, just as a backup. Put your hands up, please, if you're an agency event planner. Hands up. Okay. Direct client event planners, put your hands up, please. Okay. Any DMCs? Okay, a few. And venues and hotels, hands up, please. Okay, so we've got quite a few venues and hotels then. That's good for us to know. Okay, in the first session this morning, we're going to be talking about embracing disruption and maximizing opportunities. Now, that's quite a broad-based topic, so we're going to drill it down onto some specifics. Joining us here on the panel, we've got Kathy Mead, who's straight from her plane from IMEX in Las Vegas with virtually no sleep. And I asked her yesterday to form part of this panel because originally we got Sentil from Ika. He got stuck in America, so he couldn't even get the plane. So Kathy stepped into his shoes with a moment's notice, very little sleep. Thank you very much, Kathy. Kathy's been in the region since 2004. She's worked for venues. She was with Atlantis. She was with Jumeirah, more recently with Intercontinental's Hotels Group. And now she's general manager of Gulf Dunes, taking the destination management company perspective. And we're very glad to have her with us. We've got Dan Bolton, who's president of ILEA, which is the International Live Event Association. He's also a performance artist in his own right and focuses on entertainment with a freelance event consultancy that he runs. We've got Peter Hall, who brings a different perspective. He's the managing director of Informa Conferences and Exhibitions. You all know Arab Health, Cityscape, Middle East Electricity, and all the conferences that they run. So he can take the kind of bigger picture perspective on those larger scale events. We've also got Emma Farmer from Custard Event Management Agency. She's been in the region for quite some time. She was at Dubai Links, where she was festival director. And she's been with Custard, I think, for just over a year, although Custard have been around since, I think, 2010, if I'm not wrong. Great. Okay, so we'll kick things off. I'd like to start talking to you guys a little bit about the local market to begin with. We've seen a lot of change. Dubai is always in a pace of change because it's a developing place. We've got a turnover of residents. We've got changing visitor source markets. We're used to that change. But over the last couple of years, I think we've seen even more difference. And I'd like you guys to talk about that in terms of the challenges that you're facing in the local market and how we're basically overcoming it. I can see, Dan, you're eager to go and jump in there, so we'll start off with you.
I want to try and give the microphone to somebody else first, actually. So yeah, how's it changed? I've been here for 10 years, so I came in 2008, just before the financial downturn. So it's when events were booming, there's big budgets, so there's lots of things happening, and then obviously it slowed down straight after. But what we're seeing, especially now, is that pace of change is rapidly increasing. I think more and more the opportunities which present themselves are more, but also some of the challenges and the difficulties and the way we have to circumnavigate certain things in order to be able to achieve and do the events and the work that we like to do. It's fast-paced, extremely fast-paced. And the demands on time, resources, budgets, I think we're all very much well aware of. But again, with that, there is opportunity. So there's lots of great things. It's booming. You see the development. The gentleman was mentioning about the development on Yas. You know, Saadiyat down the road. There's stuff happening in Dubai. There's incredible potential for this region in particular and the UAE for events moving ahead in the future, and to also be a driver for these events globally, I do believe, and for people to come into the region.
Sure. I mean, let's talk about, I mean, obviously event budgets are a big thing at the moment. Everyone's looking at their budget. We're here at Yas Marina Circuit. Obviously, there's an automotive link to the circuit. We know that the automotive sector is a little bit challenged at the moment, so perhaps they're not having the huge, large-scale events that they were having before, and everybody's focusing more on return on investment. Let's talk about return on investment a little bit and what you're able to do to help clients with that.
I'll pass this one over for a sec.
Thank you, Dan. So Gulf Dunes, probably our business mix is 80% international and 20% local. So if I focus, first of all, on an international scale, I mean, one of the key components now of any RFP that you're given is the budget. And what we're being told quite early on from the DMC world is you need to sharpen your pencil now. The room for negotiation, that window is much, much shorter. And traditionally, you know, looking at different countries around the world, so if I look at Russia, for example, there could be 5 agencies bidding for a piece of business, and I'm talking 500-600 delegates. They are in the bidding stage with their agencies. The DMC is given 48 hours to turn a proposal round to get it back to Russia before they can even decide if that agency has been appointed. And the agency in Russia will say quite clearly, it's all about price. If I go to somewhere like China, for example, they're very, very price-driven, and the rule that applies within the Chinese market predominantly is 80% of the business out of China is FIT leisure groups. 20% of it is those big groups that we dream of, like the New Skins of this world, etc., that come out of Asia. But again, it's very, very price-driven. And it's not just the price, it's the speed to market and how quickly you can go back to that particular client, and also considering which other destinations they're considering. So which are those prevalent countries that are also in the mix. So a client can be receiving up to 15 to 20 proposals scoped on 3 different destinations, and the first key factor that's being weeded out at the moment is price.
Excellent. What about on the events and exhibition side then, Peter?
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, budgets are definitely tighter. The last 2 years have been quite tough. However, just to put it into perspective, we've been operating our exhibition business here from our Dubai headquarters for about 25 years. We have events, we have about 50 events regionally, all across Africa, all across the Middle East, exhibitions. And UAE is by far and away the best market for our business. It generates still 70 to 80% of our income. So it's you know, it's been a tough couple of years. Budgets are getting tighter, especially on some of the government or government entity-backed events that we run that rely more on those types of spending. But you know, we're still finding there's growth opportunities. A lot of our events, the trade ones like Arab Health, Middle East Electricity, they're largely supported internationally, and the international appeal of the UAE is still very, very powerful, and we're finding those events are still growing in attendance and in exhibiting numbers.
Sure, but what about in terms of what people are looking for from an exhibition? I mean, I'm looking back to the heydays of Cityscape when we had this, you know, it was almost real estate in itself, because you walked into the event, you got triple-story stands, it was amazing, it was like walking through a city. To me, in those days, it was more about, you know, big stands, selling space, and now things are a little bit changed. Maybe you could explain that a little bit?
It's still a bit like that, to be fair. It hasn't changed as much as you would think. Cityscape this year was a booming event. We were 30% up on attendance. It was a buzz. The level of investment in stand build was, you know, continues to increase. Double-story stands everywhere. So it's weird. You know, the reality is often, or what the reality is somewhat counterintuitive to what you would expect to see in certain markets like that. I think the overall exhibition experience has definitely changed. I mean, it's naturally changed over the last 10 years. It's become much more about an experience rather than about a trading environment where people just come, buy, meet, seller. That experience is really important both for the exhibitor and the visitor. And we're having to invest more and more in those types of activities.
Sure. I mean, I was thinking more about the kind of convex element, because it's not just about going now to just the exhibition, but you've actually got the conference, you've got the content, you've got the education, all of that kind of coming much more in a 360-degree approach, as opposed to before, maybe you get your exhibitor badge, you get your delegate badge, and you'd kind of wander through the show.
Yeah, 100%. Every exhibition now is a convex. We used to separate them, but most of or in fact all of our exhibitions have content elements to them, whereas in the past we probably didn't. And actually content is becoming really the only reason why some of our attendees visit our shows. And then while they're there, they may also go and look at the exhibition. So it's a critical element, and it's something that we're having to invest more and more in, for sure.
Excellent. I mean, content obviously is a big theme today. We're going to have the speakers talking about that a little bit later on. But everything now is driven from content. You know, it's all about that educational element. It's all about the experience element. And that's really the way that the industry, and to be honest, the world has changed because of shareability, because of social media, because of that sharing. You want to go and spread the word out to a much wider audience than are necessarily participating at an event. Emma, could you elaborate a little bit on that from the event management side?
Yeah, absolutely. Every client now wants their event to be Insta-worthy. They want to know about the social media ROI. They want to make sure they stand out from the crowd. Whether you take one of your exhibitions, they want to make sure they're better than their competitor, whether that be doing a Guinness World Record on their stand. We go to experience. No longer are we sort of getting a lot of RFPs for big gala dinners, because ultimately it all goes back to education. You know, I'm sure everyone is tweeting, chatting about what we're talking about today. So this has gone straight out to the global market. Ultimately, everyone can know and be in this room, even though they're not physically here. And I think that's a massive challenge when it comes to the client, how they make it Insta-worthy, or Facebook, or, you know, how you measure it. What is that ROI? I think it's you know, and then obviously today we've got some fantastic influencers, but, you know, the relevance of those and how that works as well.
Yeah. Excellent. Obviously, people think of disruption and naturally think of technology. Now, there's a reason I didn't want to just delve straight into technology, because there are trends and there are changes, and of course, technology is embedded with everything that we do. But maybe we can touch on that just briefly in terms of the general expectations that clients are having now in terms of what technologies that you're expected to engage and what you're expected to facilitate. Kathy, would you be able to make a comment on that?
I think clients today are far more savvy. So where before they would come to DMCs or event agencies for that help, assistance and expertise because things weren't readily available at their fingertips. So today we're constantly being challenged by what's available on technology. So the hotels, the hoteliers in the room, you know, you'll offer a rate to the client, and sometimes the response you get is, oh, well, I can see a better rate on booking.com. So they've already gone shopping on booking.com to check out what your rate strategy is and whether they agree with that or not. Certainly from the DMC perspective, I think that we're being pushed more and more today on what technology do we use, how do we prepare our proposals and quotes, how do we send out our costing sheets, what technology are we using that can align ourselves. And we're also seeing now the trend for systems like Cvent, where the client can go online themselves, start to do their own bidding process, start to deal with the hotels more directly, and therefore part of the DMC business is being eroded because they're going to hotels directly and therefore only coming then for ground services, the attractions then that they want to do, such as the desert safari, the gala dinners. So it means then that we have to either sharpen our pencils more on what we do as a complete exponential experience, and to really begin to show value as to why you would want to use the DMC and have more of an emotional connection in the destination, as opposed to depending on technology. Fortunately, we're still a people's business, so I hope that carries us through for the next 20, 30 years. But technology certainly can be a headache as well as a great ally. It just depends on how you choose to use it.
Excellent. I mean, that was one of the premises when we launched SourceMe, was to make all of the events realm accessible to everybody. And Dan and I spoke about this yesterday ahead of the session, and I was saying, how difficult is that when your contacts book is essentially available through an online resource or through a directory? And you had quite a good answer to that, Dan, if you remember what that was.
I can't really remember what I said, actually, to be honest. I think you caught me in the middle of like a client call or a brief. What we were talking about was, especially from what I do, so I deal with entertainment, and primarily anybody these days can look on YouTube, Google, Instagram, Facebook, and anybody can find the direct contact of anybody. So when I started in the industry like 20 odd years ago as a talent agent, it was all about who the agent knew and that relationship they had with talent. Whereas that's almost been bypassed now with technology, because you can literally just pick up your phone, look on Instagram, and boom, you can send them a message, and you're speaking direct to the person you want to work with. So you've cut the agents out. But I think where we still have a relevance is that we have that personal connection with talent, and we should be that bridge and that gap between the client or the agency or the event and the artist and the performer, and to help kind of mitigate the needs of both sides, and to have that personal connection. I think that's where we're seeing things slightly change, is like people have been burnt by going direct and by using technology and not understanding what it is that the talent or the event actually requires. And then they're coming back to people within the industry, ourselves, agents, bookers, entertainment people, and then using us as a resource for knowledge and for expertise and for recommendation. And it's going back to that personal connection of, who do you know, who do you trust, who do you recommend, who's not going to, screw me over on price and all the rest of it. So it's kind of twofold.
Okay, unfortunately we're running a little bit short on time, so I just want to ask one question to each of you, and if you could have a little bit of a think about this. What's the single biggest change that's created the most opportunity for you guys when you're looking ahead to the future for your businesses?
I think I go back to the point I was talking about. The pulse is now. I was talking to one of my team the other day in the car. We were going to a meeting, and they got Facebook when they were 10. I got Facebook when I was 24. It's the pulse. We all expect it now, today. Live content, live streaming, and that has massively changed the industry. And I think, with all the technology now available to us, it makes us much smarter people, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Peter.
Certainly the biggest thing on our agenda at the moment is the sort of ability to make data-driven decisions about how we promote our products, our shows, and therefore the investment in technology we're making is in trying to create better quality understanding of each of our individual customers. So there's hundreds of thousands of visitors that attend our exhibitions. We want to know what each of those individuals wants to hear from us so that we can communicate with them accurately and with value. And that requires a lot of investment, really, and a lot of kind of progress on our data strategy. That's really the thing that's hitting our business. We're constantly trying to introduce technology into our exhibitions via our exhibitors to help them get a better ROI, but to be honest, we spend a lot of time trying to educate our exhibitors on how to use it and how to gain the value from it. It feels much more like a push thing than a pull thing. We're not finding exhibitors are coming to us asking us for these solutions. It's the other way around. So the bit that excites us more is on the promotion side, where we're looking to see how we can drive better value attendees into our events, and we can use technology to do that.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, so I think mine's a kind of similar point to Emma's. It's all about the instant, the now. People are expecting everything, and it's about the engagement and the journey and the experience of when you go to an event. Long gone are the days where there was blanket invites to anybody and socialites would rock up to any event in Dubai. It's a lot more targeted, a lot more strategic. You want relevant people to be at that event to potentially buy that product or to buy into that service. So I think that's what we're seeing a lot more of. And then from an entertainment or a performance point of view, is actually creating content that people want to share. Again, long gone are the days where you just throw a load of cash on a show, dancers, performers. People want to see a return on that investment. They want to know how many shares it gets, likes it gets, who sees it, where they see it, which demographic. So everything we do is becoming a lot more structured in terms of what is that return on that potential investment.
Okay, as my colleagues have all covered off the technological side of it and the digital side of it, I've spent about 20 weeks on a plane this year, physically going to see customers. And the one word that comes up time and time again is trust. They want to know that they can trust you to deliver the promises that you've made. So strip out technology, strip out all the things, that we talk about in terms of that content, that's all the important aspects. But when they're looking to spend, several thousand or millions of dirhams in this destination, and it's an unknown entity, they need to know that the person that they're working with, or the collaboration of a team of people that they're working with, they absolutely trust 101% to deliver on the success of their program, and that you will be their conscience and their ears and eyes in the destination, meaning that the recommendations that you give, you're working with trusted suppliers. I mean, we're being asked basic things today like, what's your Dun & Bradstreet number? Clients want to know today that we're creditworthy. And if we don't have a credit scoring, they may choose not to do business with us. And that's become very prevalent for larger groups this year, which is all down to trust.
Excellent. Thanks very much, guys. I'd like to talk to you more, but we're running a little bit short on time, and I want to make sure that obviously all the speakers get the chance to have their full sessions, and also that every attendee gets a chance to enjoy the networking breaks and the fantastic wellness lounge that's just downstairs. That's really incredible, and all of you should go and check that out. Thank you very much to my panelists. I really appreciate particularly those that joined us at such short notice. Thank you for your insights. I hope that it's been valuable for the attendees and also for the speakers to understand a little bit more about our market. We've only touched on a few things, but at least it gives a taste of that from obviously you guys who are under the skin of the business. So thank you very much.